A Christmas Carol, published by Prof. LLC. A Christmas Carol, written by Charles Dickens in 1843. This edition is adapted into clear, modern English, choosing content over play of words, designed for language learners and casual listeners who want to enjoy the story without grueling language barriers.
Chapter 2, The First of the Three Spirits. When Scrooge woke up, it was so dark that he could hardly tell where his window ended and the walls began. He was trying to peer through the darkness with his sharp eyes when the church clock nearby began to chime the 4 quarters. He listened closely to hear the hour. To his great surprise, the heavy bell went on striking from 6 to 7, then 7 to 8, and kept going all the way up to 12 before it stopped. 12. It had been past 2 in the morning when he went to bed. The clock must be wrong. Perhaps an icicle had gotten into the gears. He pressed the button of his pocket watch to check the time. Its tiny, rapid ticks struck 12 and stopped.
"It's not possible,"
said Scrooge to himself,
"that I have slept through a whole day and far into another night. It isn't possible that something has happened to the sun, and this is 12 o'clock at noon."
The thought was quite alarming, so he scrambled out of bed and felt his way to the window. He rubbed the frost off the glass with his sleeve to look out, but he could see very little. He could tell it was still very foggy and extremely cold, but there was no sound of people running around or making a fuss, which would surely happen if daytime had suddenly turned into night. This was a great relief to Scrooge. If days stopped passing, his business deals and loans would become completely worthless. Scrooge went back to bed. He thought and thought about Marley's ghost over and over, but he could not make sense of it. The more he tried not to think, the more he thought about it. Marley's ghost troubled him deeply. Every time he decided it was all just a dream, his mind would snap back to the same problem.
Was it a dream or not?
Scrooge lay awake in this state for nearly an hour. Suddenly, he remembered that the ghost had warned him a spirit would visit him when the clock struck 1. He decided to stay awake until the hour passed. Since he could no more go back to sleep than he could go to heaven, this was the only sensible thing to do. The next hour felt incredibly long. Scrooge was convinced more than once that he must have drifted off and missed the chime. Finally, the sound broke the silence.
Ding dong. A quarter past.
Scrooge counted.
Ding dong. Half past.
Said Scrooge.
Ding dong. A quarter to it.
Said Scrooge.
Ding dong. The hour itself.
Said Scrooge triumphantly.
And nothing else.
He spoke before the hour bell actually sounded. Now it rang out with a deep, dull, hollow, and sad one. Instantly, light flashed in the room, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside. I tell you, the curtains were pulled open by a hand, not the curtains at his feet, nor the ones behind his head, but the ones right in front of his face. Scrooge sat up quickly and found himself face to face with the unearthly visitor. The spirit was standing as close to him as I am to you right now. It was a strange figure. It looked like a child, yet it also looked like an old man. It seemed as if it were viewed through some magic lens that made it look small and far away, like a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung down its back and neck, was white as if with age, yet its face had not a single wrinkle, and its skin had a fresh, youthful glow. Its arms were very long and muscular, and its hands were large and strong. Its legs and feet were bare. The spirit wore a tunic of the purest white. Around its waist was a beautiful, shining belt. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand. In a strange contrast to this winter branch, its tunic was decorated with bright summer flowers. But the strangest thing about the spirit was that a bright, clear beam of light shone from the top of its head, making everything visible. To cover this light when it wanted to rest, the spirit carried a large cap shaped like a candle extinguisher under its arm. As Scrooge looked closer, he noticed another strange quality. The spirit's form seemed to flicker and change. One moment it had one arm, the next it had one leg, then 20 legs, then a pair of legs without a head, and then a head without a body. These parts dissolved into the darkness and then instantly came together again, clear and distinct.
Are you the spirit whose coming was foretold to me?
Asked Scrooge.
I am.
The voice was soft and gentle, but singularly low, sounding as if it came from far away rather than from right next to him.
Who and what are you?
Scrooge demanded.
I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past?
Asked Scrooge, noticing its small size.
No. Your past.
For some reason, Scrooge felt a strong urge to see the spirit wear its extinguisher cap and asked if it would put it on.
What?
Exclaimed the ghost.
Would you so quickly put out the light I give with your worldly hands? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose greedy desires made this cap, forcing me to wear it low on my brow for so many years?
Scrooge politely apologized, saying he had no intention of offending the spirit. He then gathered his courage and asked what business brought the ghost to his room.
Your welfare,
Said the ghost. Scrooge felt grateful, but he could not help thinking that a night of uninterrupted sleep would have been much better for his health. The spirit must have read his mind, for it immediately said,
Your reclamation, then. Take heed.
The spirit reached out with its strong hand and gently clasped Scrooge by the arm.
Rise, and walk with me.
It was useless for Scrooge to complain that the weather was freezing, the hour was late, and he was only wearing slippers, a dressing gown, and a nightcap. The grip on his arm, though gentle as a woman's hand, could not be resisted. He got out of bed, but when he saw the spirit heading toward the window, Scrooge held onto his robe in fear.
I am immortal,
Scrooge protested.
and I will fall. Just let my hand touch your heart.
Said the spirit, placing its hand on Scrooge's chest.
And you will be supported in more than this.
As the words were spoken, they passed right through the wall and stood on an open country road. Fields lay on both sides. The city had completely vanished, along with the darkness and the fog. It was a clear, cold winter day with snow covering the ground.
Good heaven.
Said Scrooge, clasping his hands together as he looked around.
I was raised in this place. I was a boy here.
The spirit looked at him kindly. Its gentle touch on Scrooge's chest still felt warm. Scrooge could smell 1,000 familiar scents floating in the air, each one connected to memories, hopes, joys, and cares that he had forgotten long, long ago.
Your lip is trembling.
Said the ghost.
And what is that on your cheek?
Scrooge muttered, with a sudden crack in his voice, that it was just a pimple, and begged the ghost to lead him onward.
Do you remember the way?
Asked the spirit.
Remember it.
Cried Scrooge with excitement.
I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange that you forgot it for so many years.
Observed the ghost.
Let us go.
They walked along the road, and Scrooge recognized every gate, post, and tree. Soon, a small market town appeared in the distance, with its bridge, its church, and its winding river. Some shaggy ponies were trotting toward them with boys on their backs, calling out to other boys in wagons driven by farmers. All these boys were in high spirits, shouting to each other until the fields were filled with merry music, and the crisp winter air seemed to laugh along with them.
These are only shadows of things that have been.
Said the ghost.
They cannot see us.
The happy travelers came closer, and as they passed, Scrooge recognized and named every single one of them. He was overjoyed to see them. Why did his cold eyes fill with tears, and why did his heart leap with joy? Why was he so happy to hear them wish each other a Merry Christmas as they parted ways to go to their homes? What was a Merry Christmas to Scrooge? He had always called it nonsense. What good had it ever done him?
The school is not quite empty,
Said the ghost.
a lonely child, neglected by his friends, is still left there.
Scrooge said he knew it, and he sobbed. They left the main road and walked down a familiar lane. Soon they approached a large, red-brick schoolhouse. It was a grand but decaying house. The stables were empty, the windows were cracked, and the gates were old. Inside, the grand rooms were cold, dark, and poorly furnished. There was a damp, chilly feel to the air. They walked across the hall to a door at the back. It opened to reveal a long, bare, sad classroom filled with rows of wooden desks. At one of these desks, a lonely boy was reading next to a small, weak fire. Scrooge sat down on a bench and wept to see his poor, forgotten childhood self. Every sound in the house, the mice squeaking behind the walls, the water dripping in the yard, the wind sighing through the trees, touched Scrooge's heart, making his tears flow faster. The spirit touched his arm and pointed to the young boy reading. Suddenly, a man in colorful foreign clothes, looking incredibly real, stood outside the window. He had an axe in his belt and led a donkey loaded with wood.
Why, it's Ali Baba.
Scrooge cried out in joy.
It's dear old honest Ali Baba. Yes, I know. One Christmas, when that lonely child was left here all alone, Ali Baba came to visit him just like that. Poor boy. And look, there goes Valentine and his wild brother, Orson. And there is the Sultan's groom turned upside down on his head by the genie. Serve him right. I'm glad of it. What business did he have marrying the princess?
Hearing Scrooge speak with such excitement, his voice mixing laughter and tears, would have been a massive surprise to his business partners in the city.
And there's the parrot.
Cried Scrooge.
Green body and yellow tail, with lettuce growing on his head. There he is. Poor Robin Crusoe, the parrot called him when he came home from sailing around the island. Poor Robin Crusoe, where have you been? The man thought he was dreaming, but it was just the parrot. And there goes Friday, running for his life.
Then, suddenly changing his tone, Scrooge felt deep pity for his younger self.
Poor boy.
He said and cried again.
I wish.
Scrooge muttered, putting his hand in his pocket and drying his eyes with his sleeve.
But it's too late now. What's the matter?
Asked the spirit.
Nothing.
Said Scrooge.
Nothing. There was a boy singing a Christmas carol at my door last night. I wish I had given him something. That's all.
The ghost smiled thoughtfully and waved its hand.
Let us see another Christmas.
At these words, Scrooge's younger self grew older, and the room became darker and dirtier. The walls cracked, and plaster fell from the ceiling. Scrooge did not know how it happened, but he knew it was accurate. He saw himself again, older, but still left behind, alone while all the other boys had gone home for the holidays. He was not reading now, but walking up and down the room in despair. Scrooge looked at the ghost and shook his head sadly, then looked anxiously at the door. The door opened, and a little girl, much younger than the boy, came running in. She threw her arms around his neck, kissed him, and called him her.
Dear brother.
I have come to bring you home, dear brother.
Said the child, clapping her hands and laughing.
To bring you home, home, home.
Home, little fan.
Asked the boy.
Yes.
Said the girl happily.
Home for good. Home forever and ever. Father is so much kinder than he used to be, and our home is like heaven now. One night, he spoke to me so gently before bed that I wasn't afraid to ask him one more time if you could come home. He said yes, you should, and he sent me in a carriage to fetch you. and you are going to be a man.
Said the child, opening her eyes wide.
You will never have to come back here. But first, we are going to spend the whole Christmas together and have the merriest time in the world.
You are quite a woman, little fan.
Exclaimed the boy. She clapped her hands and laughed, trying to touch his head, but she was too short. She stood on tiptoe to hug him, then eagerly began to drag him toward the door. The boy was more than happy to go with her. In the hallway, a loud voice boomed.
Bring down young Scrooge's trunk.
The schoolmaster appeared, glaring at Scrooge with a fake smile. He shook hands with Scrooge, which made the boy very nervous. He took the children into his parlor, which was freezing cold. He gave them some light wine and a slice of heavy cake. Meanwhile, their trunk was tied to the top of the carriage. The children said goodbye to the schoolmaster happily, got into the carriage, and drove away. The wheels kicked up snow and frost as they sped down the path.
She was always a delicate creature, and a breath could have withered her.
Said the ghost.
But she had a large heart.
So she did.
Cried Scrooge.
You're right, Spirit. I won't deny it. God forbid.
She died as a woman.
Said the ghost.
And she had children, I believe.
One child.
Scrooge replied.
True.
Said the ghost.
Your nephew.
Scrooge felt uneasy and answered briefly.
Yes.
Although they had just left the school, they suddenly found themselves in the busy streets of a city. Shadowy people, carts, and carriages hurried past. The decorated shops showed that it was Christmas time here too. It was evening, and the streets were lit up. The ghost stopped at a warehouse door and asked Scrooge if he recognized it.
Recognize it.
Said Scrooge.
I was an apprentice here.
They went inside. They saw an elderly gentleman wearing a wig, sitting behind a very high desk. If he had been 2 inches taller, he would have hit his head on the ceiling. Scrooge cried out in great excitement.
Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig alive again.
Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his vest, laughed happily, and called out in a rich, warm, cheerful voice.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer, Dick.
Scrooge's younger self, now a young man, came in quickly with his fellow apprentice.
Dick Wilkins, of course.
Scrooge said to the ghost.
Bless me, yes, that's him. He was very close to me, Dick was. Poor Dick. Dear, dear.
Yo-ho, my boys.
Said Fezziwig.
No more work tonight. It's Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's put the shutters up.
Cried old Fezziwig, clapping his hands.
Before a man can say Jack Robinson.
You wouldn't believe how fast the 2 young men worked. They ran out into the street with the shutters, put them in place, locked them, and were back inside in a flash, panting like racehorses.
Hilly-ho.
Cried old Fezziwig, skipping down from his high desk with surprising speed.
Clear the floor, boys. Let's make lots of room. Hilly-ho, Dick. Cheer up, Ebenezer.
Clear the floor. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away with Fezziwig watching. In a minute, all the furniture was packed away, the floor was swept and watered, the lamps were lit, and more coal was thrown on the fire. The warehouse was transformed into a warm, dry, and bright ballroom. In came a fiddler with a music book, who sat at the high desk and tuned his fiddle. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, wearing a huge, warm smile. In came the 3 Miss Fezziwigs, beaming and lovely. In came the young men who were in love with them. In came all the young men and women who worked in the business. In came the housemaid with her cousin the baker, and the cook with the milkman. In they all came, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, and some awkwardly. They began to dance. 20 couples danced together, turning, skipping, and laughing. Old Fezziwig clapped his hands to stop the music, crying.
Well done.
The fiddler took a quick drink and started playing again with even more energy. There were more dances, games, cake, hot drinks, cold roast beef, cold boiled beef, mince pies, and plenty of beer. But the highlight of the evening came when the fiddler played.
Sir Roger de Coverley.
Old Fezziwig stood up to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig. They were the top couple, leading more than 20 pairs of dancers who were ready to dance with all their might. If there had been twice as many dancers, old Fezziwig and his wife would have been a match for them. Mrs. Fezziwig was a perfect partner in every way. Fezziwig danced so actively that his legs seemed to shine like moons. When they finished, Fezziwig did a clever dance step, jumping high and landing perfectly on his feet without stumbling. When the clock struck 11, the party ended. Mr. and Mrs. Fezziwig stood on either side of the door, shaking hands with everyone as they left, wishing them a Merry Christmas. When everyone had gone except the 2 apprentices, they wished them a Merry Christmas too. The cheerful voices died away, and the boys went to sleep under the counter in the shop. During the entire scene, Scrooge had acted like a man who had lost his mind. His heart and soul were in the memory. He remembered and enjoyed everything. It was only now, when the young apprentice versions of himself and Dick disappeared, that he remembered the ghost. The ghost was staring at him, and the light on its head shone brightly.
"It is a small thing,"
said the ghost,
"to make these silly people so full of gratitude. He spent only a few pounds of your money. 3 or 4, perhaps. Does he deserve so much praise for that?"
It isn't that, Spirit,
said Scrooge, speaking with the voice of his younger self.
It isn't that. He has the power to make us happy or unhappy, to make our work easy or hard, a pleasure or a chore. Even if his power is only in his words and looks, in things so small that you cannot count them, the happiness he gives is as great as if it cost a fortune.
Scrooge felt the spirit's gaze and suddenly stopped speaking.
"What is the matter?"
asked the ghost.
Nothing in particular,
said Scrooge.
"Something, I think."
The ghost insisted.
No,
Said Scrooge.
no. I would just like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk right now. That's all.
As Scrooge spoke, the scene faded. Scrooge and the ghost stood side by side in the open air once more.
My time is growing short.
Said the spirit.
Quick!
Suddenly Scrooge saw himself again. He was older now, a man in the prime of life. His face did not have the harsh lines of his old age yet, but it had begun to show signs of worry and greed. His eyes moved restlessly, showing the greed that had taken root in his heart. He was not alone. He sat next to a beautiful young girl in a black dress. Her eyes were filled with tears.
It matters very little to you.
She said softly.
Another idol has replaced me in your heart. If it can comfort you in the future as I would have tried to do, I have no reason to be sad. What idol has replaced you?
He asked.
A golden one.
She replied.
This is the way of the world.
He said angrily.
The world is harsh to the poor, yet it condemns those who try to get rich. You fear the world too much.
She answered gently.
All your hopes have changed into the fear of being poor. I have watched your noble dreams fall away one by one, until your only passion is money. Am I wrong? What of it?
He retorted.
Even if I have grown wiser, does that mean I have changed towards you?
She shook her head.
Have I?
He asked.
Our promise to marry was made long ago.
She said.
We were both poor then, and content to wait until we could improve our lives through hard work. But you have changed. When we made that promise, you were a different man. I was a boy.
He said impatiently.
Your own heart tells you that you are not the same.
She returned.
I am. What promised us happiness when we were of one heart now brings us misery. I have thought about this deeply. It is enough that I have thought about it, and I release you from your promise. Have I ever asked to be released? Not in words. No, never. In what then? In your changed nature, in your altered spirit, in everything that made my love valuable to you. If we had never met, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me now? Ah, no.
Scrooge seemed to know she was right, but he struggled to say.
You think so? I would gladly think otherwise if I could.
She answered.
But if you were free today, would you choose a poor girl with no money? You, who weigh everything by profit. And even if you did, do I not know that you would regret it later? I do, and so I release you. I do it with a full heart, for the love of the man you used to be.
He was about to speak, but she continued.
You may feel pain in this for a short time, but soon you will forget it as an unprofitable dream, and you will be glad you woke up. May you be happy in the life you have chosen.
She left him, and they parted.
Spirit,
Cried Scrooge.
show me no more. Take me home. Why do you torture me?
One more shadow.
Said the ghost.
No more.
Cried Scrooge.
No more. I don't want to see it.
But the ghost held him firmly and forced him to watch. They were in a different room. It was not very large, but it was cozy and comfortable. Next to a warm fire sat a beautiful young girl, so like Belle that Scrooge thought it was her, until he saw Belle herself, now a happy mother, sitting opposite her daughter. The room was filled with children. There were more children than Scrooge could count, and they were playing loudly, laughing, and making a happy noise. No one seemed to mind the noise. Instead, the mother and daughter laughed along with them. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The children rushed to it just in time to greet the father, who came home carrying arms full of Christmas toys and presents. The children yelled with joy, climbing on him, searching his pockets, and hugging him. The room was filled with laughter and excitement as the presents were opened. Eventually, the children went upstairs to bed, and the house grew quiet. Scrooge watched closely as the father sat down by the fire with his daughter leaning on him and Belle next to him. Scrooge thought that a beautiful daughter like that might have called him father and been a source of joy in his cold life. His eyes grew dim with tears.
Belle?
Said the husband to his wife with a smile.
I saw an old friend of yours this afternoon. Who was it? Guess. Mr. Scrooge?
She guessed, laughing.
Yes, Mr. Scrooge. I passed his office window. It wasn't shut, and he had a candle inside, so I could see him. His partner Marley is dying, I hear, and Scrooge sat there all alone. Quite alone in the world, I believe. Spirit,
Said Scrooge in a broken voice.
take me away from this place.
I told you these were shadows of things that have been.
Said the ghost.
Do not blame me that they are what they are.
Take me away.
Scrooge cried.
I cannot bear it.
He turned on the ghost. Seeing that its face seemed to show parts of all the faces he had seen, Scrooge wrestled with it.
Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
In the struggle, Scrooge noticed that the light on the ghost's head was burning brightly. Connecting the light to the ghost's power, Scrooge grabbed the extinguisher cap and pressed it down hard upon its head. The spirit shrank under it, and the cap covered its entire form. But though Scrooge pressed it down with all his might, he could not put out the light, which streamed out from under the cap in a bright flood onto the floor. Scrooge felt completely exhausted and sleepy. He found himself back in his own bedroom. He let go of the cap, crawled into bed, and immediately fell into a deep sleep.
This has been A Christmas Carol, published by Prof. LLC. Production copyright 2026 by Prof. LLC. Thank you for listening.